Hi everyone, it's Olga Zarr from SEO Sly. This is SEO podcast by SEO Sly. Today I have a very special guest. This is Zach, and we'll be talking about AI and SEO, and how those two things are impacting one another. And I think Zach has a lot of interesting insights you would like to know. So, Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Olga. Thank you to everyone for listening to the SEO Slide podcast today. I'm really excited to be on here, excited to tell you what I've learned about AI as it affects SEO and how you can adapt to that for the future.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. So, before we dive into that topic, can you briefly introduce yourself to the audience in case they don't know you? What are you
Yeah,
up
so
to in SEO,
yeah, uh,
basically?
I own a growth marketing agency called Galactic Fed. We have 120 employees in around 20 something countries around the world. We focus on all parts of the growth marketing spectrum. So not SEO is a huge pillar for what we do, but we also do paid media. We do influencer marketing, website creation, email marketing, etc. SEO is definitely one of the absolute biggest focuses that we do, though, and I care a lot about it. How I got here, I worked at Procter and Gamble. I worked at Google. I worked at this unicorn B2B tech startup called TopTal. And I bounced around in my marketing journey a bit. I've done some stuff on the brand side. I did a lot of work in the paid media side originally. So I actually have an interesting background in SEO where I started more on the paid side, and that was really my specialty. But I realized the power of organic search and the power of growing uh, inbound customers from not having to pay for them, right? And being able to grow this over time. So really shifted a lot of my focus to SEO as we've been scaling Galactic Fed. But yeah, I've been running my company for the last 6 or so years now. We've helped, I think, a bit over 600 clients in that time, and hope I can add some value to everyone listening right now.
That's impressive. So, you are, I think, the third ex-Googler on the show. So, that's cool. And one Googler already was there. So, and I
Right?
also worked for Procter and Gamble for a
Oh,
period, but in the way that I was working for an agency, which was the
mm,
agency hired to do. So I was kind of this white label type of person. But yeah,
right, right.
but I did some SEO for them, some like bigger projects. Okay, and regarding Google, everyone will be probably interested. When did you work? For how long? And what exactly did you do there?
Yeah, I worked there in 2016, 2017. I can't quite remember the exact amount of time. I was on a group there called the Accelerated Growth Team, which was it was this like pilot group within Google that was sort of their like SWAT team for helping companies that were trying to grow really fast on Google Ads and to a degree SEO search as well, who had a big brand, think Uber, think BuzzFeed, companies like that, but didn't have a lot of online marketing presence on Google yet. So this might have been companies
Mhm.
that grew through product marketing, who grew through word of mouth, and realized, as every big company growing up does, we actually need to advertise on Google, both on the paid side and also writing great content and getting us to rank well on SEO. So I was helping companies that probably everyone listening has heard of. I can't list all of them for confidentiality reasons. Really interesting job though.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So if I'm counting correctly, after Google, you set up your own business, right?
Yes, I briefly worked at TopTal for a year and a half. It's a company similar to Upwork, like a B2B freelancer. I was running some parts of their growth team there, and
Mm.
actually met my co-founder at that company as well.
Yeah, so in like 6 years or so, you grew your company from like one to more than 100 employees. Am I right?
Yes, yeah, it was quite the fast journey. Learned a lot along the way, and
Tell
maybe
me
another
more
time.
about it.
Yeah, uh, I had to learn really fast how you find really great people and kind of scale the way we do things, right? Because as I'm sure you totally understand, Olga, as you're hiring people for this line of work, you could hire, the absolute best SEO in the world, but maybe if they don't fit the way that Galactic Fed does things within our agency, it might not fit what clients are expecting when they hire us. So I had to learn really fast. We have like multi-step hiring process. We have people do written assessment up front to gauge their commitment and how they can write and these sorts of things. We do mock interview calls where we pretend like I'm the client and you are the account manager. I'm upset about something that happens. How do we work through this? So we set up a pretty complex interview process, And then we really care a lot about onboarding and making sure that when people join the company at Galactic Fed, they really care about us and they have a great time and it's like fun. And also like they know how we do things. Like we like blueprint everything. The way that we kick off a new client, the way we do keyword research, the way we write content. It's all blueprinted, and that makes sure that we have a consistent high quality of the way we do things. So that was some important stuff I learned along the way. Definitely made a lot of mistakes though.
Can you name some?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I feel like a lot of early founders do this. I was kind of like blinded when I saw someone had like big names on their resume. I mean, here I am talking about working with Google and P&G and stuff, but like sometimes I feel like I would look past, someone's actual skills and kind of like the vibe I got with them because I'm like, oh well, like they worked at XYZ great company, like surely they're a good person. Whereas I found that a lot of times people will sometimes ride on their laurels there and maybe not be the
Yeah.
best fit. Whereas some of the like the great example, like Rachel, who basically runs all of our paid media and SEO teams, associate vice president, Galactic Fed. She never went to college. She didn't work at any huge, super well-known companies, but she is absolutely fantastic at what she does. And the companies that she did work at, she did really great work for them. And you don't need to have fancy degrees or have worked at great companies in order to be a great hire. So that's one mistake I made is trusting credentials too much, I'd say. Let me think. What else? I think I learned that it's really important to tell clients up front on when we're talking with them, even in the sales process, what we can expect realistically they can get from results. I think early on, I might have been like, yeah, you want to get 1,000 backlinks a month. Yeah, we can't do that, but we'll try. I'm exaggerating, right? But I might have been like, we'll do our best. I'm not sure this will be possible. And we really learned if we think that what a client is asking is not going to be possible, it is so important just to be honest about that and upfront. Not that we were ever not honest, but we just were we just tried too hard to do something that wasn't really possible. And I think that anybody will respect you a lot more if rather than trying to reach to do something that probably won't be possible, you tell them up front, hey, I don't think that that's the right expectation. I don't think anybody will be able to do it. I advise you to revise your expectations. Here is what's realistic. Even if you don't hire us, I want to give you the gift of understanding what you could actually get out of an SEO relationship. And I think that customers tend to really appreciate that sort of direct communication.
Yes, I would say this is the rule of over delivering and under promising, right? Yeah, this
Yes,
is
yeah,
this is
exactly,
the right one.
exactly.
And so one question about scaling, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people in the audience who have small agencies. They're thinking about scaling. Like one tip you could give to them?
Yeah, I would say it's really small agencies, in my opinion, always the number one thing they'll ask is, how do I find clients? And I found that once you reach a certain size and you start to scale, it having good people on your team who can do really great work is, I think, in a way, table stakes. Like you need to have the best processes possible. And then it's really important to just figure out how you want to generate new leads and find new clients to work with. And I think the best way we found for doing that is just doing really great work for the clients that you have, and then asking them for referrals can be really valuable. So I think that I'd recommend early agency founders to just be willing to be proactive and ask for what you want and what you need, whether that's asking existing clients for referrals, whether that's asking a friend who's particularly well connected, if they have anyone you might be able to chat with. I would say have those conversations where you're not sure if they're going to lead anywhere, but someone wants to chat for advice or to connect because they're in your space on LinkedIn. We get messages like these. I
Yeah.
remember when I was first starting my company, I just spent like multiple months per year just flying around to like New York, San Francisco, Chicago, LA, London, Hong Kong, etc. And I would just ask people I knew in the area, like, can you recommend 2 or 3 well-connected, cool, interesting people that I could get coffee with? And I don't know, 5 out of 6 of those led nowhere. But sometimes I
Mhm.
made friends and sometimes I got clients from them. And no matter what, I always learned something more about marketing. And I think that helped me kind of expand my mindset in terms of what industries we could help and what types of help people needed, rather than living in this sort of SEO bubble ivory tower of making backlinks and optimizing content and stuff. It's really important to focus on what customers really care about is making more money, finding more customers, and what does that really look like in the real world. You only find that out if you talk to people.
Exactly, 100%. So about SEO, like how big is your SEO team? Like in many, like how many offices do you have?
So we're a fully remote company. We don't have any physical offices. I say around 20 countries because I always forget exactly where we're at. It might be 21 or something like that. As far as headcount, ooh, I should know. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact size of our SEO team. It blurs in sometimes in ways because we um, we actually have an approach where we have some account executives, account managers who are well specialized in SEO, in paid marketing, email and growth marketing, and they may be advising clients on all of the above if they're hiring us to help with a more holistic package. So depending how you define it, you could say we have anywhere from like I don't know, 25 to 50 people working directly on our SEO department at Galactic Fed.
Okay, and anything like specific you do regarding SEO? Any what is your USP? Is there like something you do maybe differently than other SEOs?
Yeah, so I say what we really focus on are the customers that we tend to help. We've helped everywhere from like Fortune 10 companies like Shell to like very, very early stage startups. But I'd say what companies hire us for the most is like hyper growth startups who are trying to grow
Yeah.
very fast with online marketing and SEO in particular. My co-founder, Irina, and I got our sort of brand in the SEO and paid world helping large growing startups like that. So companies will typically hire us for that. Previously that was helping with backlinking, technical optimizations, content, but right now we're really taking a forward look at how we can help optimize companies for AI. So how do we get your queries ranking in LLMs like ChatGPT and Gemini? How can you create your own AI models to try to query back at it and see what types of content strings typically get responded by the LLM, doing these sorts of things. We don't have a whole lot of customers who are hiring us to do this sort of super technical AI forward type stuff yet, but I'm investing a lot in terms of hiring R&D folks to look into the future of this because I think this will grow more and more important.
Yeah, so this is a very nice transition to our main topic, which is AI. So maybe I will start with this question simply. Will SEOs be replaced by AI? And if so, when? What are your thoughts on that?
Good question. For everyone listening, AI is not going to steal your job, I think, but somebody who understands AI might. I think that this is not happening in the next month, the next year. This is a 2 to 10 year transition slowly as these tools become more commonplace and actually more higher quality and not spammy and Google the other algorithms learn to work with them better. But no, I don't think that SEO is going away. I think that as long as we live in a capitalist society where people are trying to get their brand in front of other people, there's always going to be competition to have human oversight helping people do it better than each other. Because if AI reached perfect parity, that means that every company would reach perfect parity on results. And that's
Yeah.
just not a world that would be possible. So no, AI won't replace your job, SEOs listening, but you really need to learn the tools and start investing in it and understanding how you can make your workflows better, how you can make them faster, how you can bring down costs and pass along those costs to your clients, those cost savings to your clients. How you can use AI to help you brainstorm content but not write it is something that we really care about.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of little keyword clusters and stuff like that, little like technical things you can use AI to speed up as well right now. But yeah, the TLDR is get good at AI now so that someone who's good at it doesn't eat your lunch.
Yeah. Okay, so now tell me which of the large language models available do you like the most? Which one do you use the most? And what do you use them for in terms of SEO in your company and for clients?
Yeah, so just as a private individual, kind of basic, I pay for ChatGPT, $20 a month or whatever it is, use the 4.0 model. I think it's great. Do I think there are other LLMs like Perplexity and stuff that might work a little bit better and have sources? Yes, but I use ChatGPT in a way because I know that so many people do use that one. And I think that it's important as SEOs for us to understand what most of our users will be using and to have interactions with the primary tools that people will be using, even if there's something that's a little more niche and a little better. From a tools and workflows perspective, I generally try not to give too many prescriptive tips on the exact technologies to use from a workflow perspective in SEO, because honestly, they change so fast of which ones work
Yeah.
well. And I found that by the time someone's listening to this podcast 6 months from now, my advice on which tools to use may be
Yeah.
different. One that I do want to give a plug for is I think Jasper can be pretty good for at least ideating content. I know some folks who are first employees at a company, and they really do great stuff there. I know that a lot of people use that from an SEO perspective, but yeah, I would say it's really important to just understand which parts of your workflow you need better optimization for, and just do your homework. Like read reviews on Reddit, read reviews online about which ones are working best, because there's lots of tools out there now. And I think that we're just in an absolute gold rush of companies starting AI based businesses. And I think some really, really great ones are going to come out in the next few years that make all of our lives a lot easier on SEO.
Yeah, probably. So I currently use like three, of course, ChatGPT, Claude. Are you using
Mhm.
Claude as well?
Yeah, yeah,
Claude and Google Gemini, and I'm currently
yeah.
like testing Google Pixel to
Yeah, yeah.
to decide whether I want a Pixel or I want an iPhone.
Right.
So
Olga, for listeners, Olga and I were emailing back and forth
yeah,
earlier about, she was like, yeah, I'm trying to decide the Pixel. And I was like, I want the Pixel, but I'm just too much of an Apple fanboy. I'm recording on my MacBook Air. I've got my, iPhone charging next to me on my AirPods. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think that
Oh, maybe
Pixel
here.
has, yeah, there you go. Pixel has a lot of better technologies implemented, it seems like, than the
Yeah,
iPhone
yeah.
now.
So I'm very, very curious to see if it's if I can learn anything new, how to use possibly Gemini, if Gemini survives. But I am
Yeah.
also like everything I have relates to Apple, so it will be a
Yeah.
hard switch if I
I
make
think
one.
that I agree, and I know that Apple in its newest iPhones and iOS updates is releasing what they're calling Apple Intelligence, which I think is actually a really great rebrand from Apple AI. Might have been the other obvious choice. I think consumers now in their minds are almost associating the phrase AI with kind of something scary in a way, something coming for them, something stress inducing in a way. And I think Apple is really great at rebranding, at being the second mouse, right? They're not the first mouse to get the cheese; they're the second one, and they do it a lot better. They did this with smartphones. You could say BlackBerry and such for their first. They did it with, they did it with the mouse. Xerox was the one who
Yeah,
invented
yeah.
the mouse, not Apple, etc. Uh, I'm very curious to see how Apple does with Apple Intelligence, Apple AI. At the very least, I want it to be better if I search for like pictures of me on the beach. I want it to be actually be able to find that instead of you know, a memo I wrote that says pictures on the beach. Rant over, but I'm very curious
Yeah.
to see the Apple versus Pixel evolution there.
Yeah, the only problem is that in Europe, I won't have Apple Intelligence because of all
Oh,
those
right.
regulations. So
True. Yeah.
that's the problem, the biggest problem.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that for your clients, you are also doing something like trying to get them in large language model answers. Can you tell me more about it? Is it all about ChatGPT or maybe those others as well?
Yeah. So this starts to get a little bit technical. So I'll try to explain it as simply as possible for everyone listening. But basically, there are research papers that are coming out now that are showing that LLMs such as ChatGPT, such as Claude, such as Gemini, for whatever reason, they tend to prefer sometimes different types of writing styles that people can do. And in fact, these large language models will pick up certain phrases more often than others, so much that they've coined the term strategic text, I think strategic text sequences. It's STS, I can't remember the first S. But basically, this is a great example is in the basically fake LLM that these researchers made. There was this, they were inserting, if I remember this correctly, a bunch of different fictional coffee companies and a bunch of fictional content associated with those coffee companies, and trying to figure out which of these coffee companies the LLM they made would recommend the most. And there was this one strategic text sequence that came up over and over again. It was something like, for best quality, highest rated coffee, go no further than Blackbird Coffee Roasters. I'm making this up, but it was something like that. And basically, what the researchers found was there was almost a way to write content in such a way that the LLM, which could be applied to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, would recommend that type of brand more often than the others. Unfortunately, there's no magic silver bullet I can tell listeners right now of a certain way to write. Maybe on our blog eventually we'll publish that, or maybe Olga will get to it before me. But I
I
think
don't think so.
I think the point though is like it is possible to write content on your site and to explain things on your site in such a way that it makes it easier for LLMs to index and show it. Now, I do think that with this, we might see a future where, similar to the wild wild west of like spamming backlinks, when Google first came out, or even like spamming text in like transparent text in the bottom of your website like way early back. I think there might be a future where people are trying to like spam LLMs somehow and spam mentions all around the internet just to get their brand to show up first. Google will punish that, and there's going to be updates that make a lot of people mad. We know how that's going to go, but um, I think one. Can I share one thing for people about
Yeah,
something that I
sure,
recommend people do?
sure.
So one thing that we're finding interesting at Galactic Fed, our R&D team, is that listeners may have heard there's this transition from backlinks, which has been the foundation of the plumbing of the internet, right? For the last 20 or so years is how Google recognizes authority, relevance, etc. But Google and the LLMs as well are really transitioning to more of what they call an entity-based model,
Yeah.
which is just fancy for your brand name can be anywhere on the internet and Google will notice it and care about it. So if someone is writing an article about you in the Wall Street Journal, but they don't happen to give you that precious backlink, just the fact that your brand name is mentioned in
Yeah.
the Wall Street Journal will still be powerful. Another really interesting thing is that Google, and when I say Google, you can assume I mean OpenAI, et cetera, just so I don't have to keep saying that, but I'll say Google for shorthand, is getting much better at transcribing video and audio into text and crawling that. So YouTube, TV interviews, podcasts such as this one, getting your brand mentions in audio, even if it's not transcribed to text and given backlinks, is really giving more SEO juice than it ever was before. And I think that's something important for folks to keep in mind. Almost a more of like a blended PR approach to SEO is something that we're starting to recommend.
That's a very, very, very good tip. So definitely, definitely love it. There are a lot of SEOs in the audience. Can you give a few tangible tips on how SEOs can use AI to leverage their skills? I know that this may change, and this will probably change, but at least let's say it will be relevant for the next year or so.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know that everyone here is listening, like, wow, that stuff sounds interesting, but like, how do I help my HVAC, my I don't know, dentist client or something like that, make
Yeah.
their SEO better with this sort of stuff? I think what people right now should focus on is, not promising some fancy strategic tech sequence stuff to your clients, but really finding a way to make the work that you do for your clients faster, easier, higher quality, and then hopefully passing along as much of those savings as you can to your clients as well, which will make them happier with you, which will get you more referrals, which is a good virtuous cycle. So a few of the ways that you can do this, I think like a few main areas is data analysis can be helpful from AI. Content generation is a big one we can speak about, and keyword research. So for the first two, data analysis and keyword research, these are ones where I'll recommend users to do a bit of your own research on the different tools out there for your given use case. I'd say that the tools you want to use from an SEO perspective, if you're helping small local businesses, might be quite different than if you're helping a hyper growth startup spending millions of dollars a month in marketing. But um, think about the routine tasks that you do every day. Even try to just track your time on a given week or month with Toggle or a similar tool like that, and see, man, what do I spend the most time doing in my SEO workflow? And I promise you, whatever that is, if you Google, keyword research AI tool, let's say keyword research is the thing that frustrates you, it takes a while. There's going to be a tool out there that helps you with that. And find the one that fits your right, price to quality ratio or whatever you need, and help that cut down the time you spend. That right now, for everyone listening, saving yourself time is the biggest use case you're going to get, because what clients are going to increasingly hire us for is less this technical stuff, which can be sort of automated in a way. The analysis, the keyword research, as these tools come onto the stage, as we've been talking about, people who are savvy with AI might be better than you if they're good at it. What clients are hiring you for, guys, is you know like a strategy for SEO. You know how a brand needs to grow with SEO. You know how a brand needs to write certain type of content, how a brand needs to advertise itself online in order to get more customers. And that needs to always be the focus. So I think one important area to talk about though is content generation. This is definitely like the area that gets the most
Yeah, but what question
interest,
about
controversy.
keyword research?
Please, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, one question. So I do keyword research mostly with like 2 or 3 biggest tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and maybe Google Keyword Planner because they have like the biggest databases for keyword research. LLMs don't have like any data about keywords, and they usually make those keywords up. So how do I do keyword research with LLMs so that the keywords I come up with actually make sense to target?
Yeah, so great question. What we found is you still need tools like the ones that you mentioned to start the journey. But what the LLMs can do is if you can upload a CSV of 100 keywords or 50 keywords or something that you got from one of those, and you're really trying to look for a larger list of, let's say, long tail keywords that might relate. You can upload that to ChatGPT or to a more specialized tool, ideally, and have it give you back a list of a larger amount of long tail keywords that might be relevant for a bigger brand that's really trying to get more niche searches. And then still with the tools right now, and this is something we'll get into when we're talking about content, you do need to really verify and make sure that it's not making stuff up, as you said, because this is one of the biggest issues plaguing AI right now: the hallucinations, the absolute confidence with which it tells you something that is not true. And that's why, like right now, I think it can help you save time, but like this is why AI isn't replacing your job right now, guys. Because if a business owner tried to use ChatGPT to do something that SEMrush or something is typically used by savvy people to do right now, they would be chasing keywords that have nothing to do with their brands that nobody's searching for because ChatGPT made it up. So that's a really great question and a great caveat, Olga.
Yeah, sure, sure. Okay, so now tell me all the secrets about content creation with ChatGPT and other LLMs.
Yeah, so I think the short of it is less exciting and silver bullet than most people might hope, which is just, guys, don't use ChatGPT to write your content or even Jasper's or other tools entirely. Use them to brainstorm, use them to upload outlines or even to help create outlines and to give thoughts on how to expand. Use them to proofread, use them to spell check. I think AI right now in its current iteration is best thought of as a thought partner, as a really, really smart college intern who never has to sleep or eat or take a break and is there at your beck and call to do research whenever you want, but the quality may not always be completely accurate. I think that said too, though, even if let's absolve ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude of the hallucination issue. Let's wave a magic wand, and all of a sudden, everything they say is always 100% accurate, which would be a huge improvement for us, right? Even still, you should not use these tools to write your content for you guys because you want your brand to be one in a million, not one of a million. And when you use AI tools to write your content, it's just the sum average of the discussion of that stuff you're writing about on the entire internet. And if you're writing content for, I don't know, a beekeeping brand, I don't know how that came to my head. I'm in New York City and I see a beehive outside on a roof.
Yeah.
Let's say a company hires you to help advertise their beekeeping brand. You don't want them to talk about everything else that everyone in the world has talked about for beekeeping, like normal, boring guides. You want to talk to them about what makes their brand different. Why is this brand in New York City different? Get honey that's made on top of a New York skyscraper. That's the type of thing that ChatGPT would not be able to come up with itself. But you, as the SEO advisor to this company, the person who understands the market, and you could write things in a different way. That said, of course, like use these tools. They're great, guys. Like use them to brainstorm, use them to give you ideas. I use it all the time. Even great example before this podcast, I knew Olga and I would be chatting about the future of AI with SEO, and I knew the things we did as a business. But I asked a couple of the different AI tools, like, here are some things that I want to come on this podcast and discuss. Any other ideas of questions I could ask Olga or ideas I could do?
Oh.
I didn't really, I got a few things from it. My notes are all jumbled now. I can't remember what came from what. But it's a good thought partner. And it's a good editor and it gives you good feedback. But the TLDR is right now, don't trust it to write for you.
Yeah, totally, totally. But have you been playing with custom GPTs and setting them up so that they write like as good as they can with and better than like the default version? Have you been doing that?
Yeah, good point. I forgot to bring that up. That's definitely something we've been looking into at Galactic Fed. I'm joking with our CTO, Tom. He is right now working on a project for me to make Zach Bot, which is basically a GPT of all the ways that I email and write Google Docs and Slack people, because I have a very particular writing style, and I try my darndest to ask our team to write in the way that I write often, and especially when we're writing content for our brand, when we're writing, making new web pages for the Galactic Fed agency site. I want it to be a very particular way, and I'm almost tired of rewriting things for people. So we are making our own custom GPT of me in the way I write. That's a funny aside, but yes, this is something that we're starting to look at more and more to do for clients. You need to have some caveats. It's important that what you feed the GPT is what you're going to get out. There's this phrase people say sometimes: garbage in, garbage out, which means, for
Yeah.
those listening who don't know, if you feed an algorithm bad data, you're going to get bad data back. So if you feed if you build a fancy custom GPT for your clients, and they're really excited about it, and you say it's going to transform their content, and then all you upload is the old content they've written, which they're not very proud of, well, don't be surprised when the way that the GPT writes is exactly like they used to write. That said, though, if you do have some really great content pieces that the brand has already written, it can actually be like not as complicated as you'd think to build one of these custom GPTs. I know this from chatting with our CTO. I have not gone into the entire technical process myself and built one. I want to be honest about that. But I've chatted with Tom, our CTO, as he's done it, and according to him, it's something that a reasonably intelligent, somewhat technical SEO person could do. You do not need to be a coder per se, and it's a great way just to query back and get thoughts about the body of information you've fed it.
Yeah, I created like a lot of them for myself, for clients. So this isn't like difficult. This isn't really technical. You just have to define
Yeah,
the steps, what it will do, and upload as much knowledge as possible. And the output I get from those for clients is definitely better, like what you have, like if you just start chatting with ChatGPT. So, but they still make
exactly. Yeah,
mistakes and forget what they were
yeah.
supposed to do. Okay,
I
so I
agree.
have
I was
okay.
just saying, yeah, it's the more you can feed the model, the better it'll be. Go.
Totally. So a few like final questions. How do you envision the future of SEO if you were to predict the future of SEO and AI in let's say 5 years from now? What do you see happening?
Great question. Yeah, important caveat that it's going to change so much, and most importantly, I'm just excited for how it'll help all of us use the internet better. I think we focus on our work side of things, but I think it'll be really cool for users to see these things get better. I'll finally be able to ask Apple to find me a photo, pictures of me on the beach, and it will actually return that accurately. But more importantly, for those of us in this industry, I think that there'll be more predictive SEO. I think AI is going to help people better predict trends and changes in both the algorithms themselves, which will be interesting. Like we'll be able to understand in the future, like what are some things that Google is going to try to correct, and therefore how can I fix for that? Paradoxically, you can even ask GPTs to help give you thoughts on that and make sure you're not setting your content strategy up in a way that will hurt you down the road. I think a big one that I already spoke about a bit, Olga, is the voice and visual video transcription search. This is going to be huge. As we've seen on every platform, from social ones like Meta to YouTube, video is getting more and more important. Even LinkedIn now has
Yeah.
meme reels in your feed that are coming up, and that's not just because that's what users like to see. If you look at the data, that is actually correlated with the ability of the platforms to index those videos and see what's relevant and surface it to users. So you can expect video is only going to get more important. So for those of people out there who are like, video is not SEO, I write content for my clients, that's all I do, you may want to reconsider your strategy, because video is only going to get more and more important. I wouldn't be surprised if Google, flagship Google organic search even tends to show videos more often in the future than it does right now, as Google continues indexing them. I think one thing that I'm excited for is hyper personalization with SEO. I think that AI is really going to help, change dynamic text insertions and different things like that on both the paid media side too, honestly, but also especially the organic side of making sure that when users are searching for something, they get something that is really relevant to them. Maybe a little bit less so for our Polish and other European counterparts who have much stronger data protection, but at least those in America and places that care less about your your privacy, this personalization piece is going to be coming a lot. And I think it'd be important for folks to try and tailor content to individual users. Finally, too, I just think that keep these LLMs in mind. Like I think that users are searching more and more and more on Gemini, on ChatGPT, on Claude, on Perplexity, on you name it, whatever ones you guys are using right now, and try to play around and keep on top of the latest trends and updates about how people are understanding how to get brands surfacing on LLMs, because in a year or two, at least from now, you're going to have clients who are hiring you who are saying, make sure that when someone searches top 10 dentists in Toronto, Canada, I'm on that list. And you're going to have to tell them that you have some idea of how to make that happen. It's going to change between now and then, but there's going to be a way to do that. So I think those are a few important ways that I see it changing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one final question, like what are the things SEOs shouldn't do with AI, in your opinion, SEOs and generally like people working in digital marketing?
I'd say the most important one, guys, is don't try to game the system. Don't go down the black hat, even dark gray hats rabbit hole. As Olga and I spoke about earlier, at one point this was stuffing transparent text with keywords into the bottom of sites. At one point this was spamming low quality backlinks. In the future, this is going to be something with LLMs. I can't define it yet. There's going to be some tempting thing that you'll want to do. And it might help you short term, but long term, Google's really going to punish behaviors like this, as it always does. It's going to know it. And you're going to look low quality to your clients. They're going to get punished, and so will you. Try to resist that. Try to keep focusing on creating great, useful, high quality, authoritative content, whether that's video, audio, or text. Foundationally, that remains the same. I'd say also don't rely too much on AI. Again, like you need to know how to use it. You need to be good at it, but it shouldn't be all that you are. Otherwise, these brands could use it themselves. You need to remember that you add value as a human in a way that AI will never do, at least for the foreseeable decade or two. And don't make your offer all about AI. Make it about strategy. Make it about the way that you help people get hyper custom. Make it the ways that you only a human can do will become even more important to sell. Let me think. Yeah, I think also finally, we said this already, but just don't use AI to write all your blogs and content, right?
At least without reviewing them.
At least without reviewing, yes, without reviewing and heavy editing. That's what I'll say. Advice for people using AI on SEO.
Bottom line of today's episode.
Bottom line, yes.
Okay, Zach, so where can people find you, follow you? What's the best place?
Yeah, so galacticfed.com is our website. We, of course, help tons of brands do all this stuff that we're talking about. We help brands grow with SEO. We also help brands grow with paid media, influencer marketing, email marketing, build websites, create content, create great design. Would love to help you to transform your brand or your clients if that's helpful. We have a really active LinkedIn presence too. We post great helpful content. And I have a personal website, zachboyette.com too, where I post some stuff on that as well. But super friendly, happy to chat. Zach at galacticfed.com. Hit me up.
Yeah, I will link everything below. Yeah, thanks for being here. It is a very interesting episode and people want to hear about AI. So I think everyone loves this episode.
Great. Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.